Hi angels and welcome to my channel. In today's video I want to show you my Valentino Blush Collection. I have 6 shades in total. Now I'm going to show you some swatches and I'm going to apply all the 6 shades on my cheeks, and at the end I'm going to give you some comparisons. So if you are interested, then please keep watching. In the Valentino Blush range there are 12 shades in total and I have 6, so I'm going to show you the 6 I have. And I'm going to start with the shade 2 Very Rose, and this is a swatch of Very Rose. It's a neutral rose tone. Shade 4 Sweet Rebel, and this is a shade 4 Sweet Rebel, and this one is a neutral brownish beige shade with a little bit of shimmer in it, but the shimmer is very fine. This is a shade 5 Rosso Valentino, and this is how Rosso Valentino looks swatched, and this one is a neutral red. This is a shade 6 Call Me Coral. This one is Call Me Coral swatched, and this is a coral shade. This is a shade 7 Orange Delight. This is a shade 7 Orange Delight, and this one is a vibrant orange shade. This is a shade 9 Poudre, and this is a shade 9 Poudre swatched, and this one is a neutral beigey rose shade. And these are all the 6 shades. This one is 2 Very Rose, 4 Sweet Rebel, 5 Rosso Valentino, 6 Call Me Coral, 7 Orange Delight, and 9 Poudre. Now I'm going to apply the blushes on my cheeks, and I'm going to start with the lightest one. I'm going to start with Poudre, this one. This is the swatch, Poudre. And this is how it looks on the cheeks. Now I'm going to build up the blush quite a bit so you can see the colors better. This one is a very neutral beigey rose tone. It's very pretty. It's my favorite shade actually. You can wear this shade with every eye makeup you want to. This is the shade Poudre, and I think the most similar shade to the shade 9 Poudre is Sweet Rebel, shade 4, this one. This one is the shade Sweet Rebel, and this one is more of a neutral brown with a hint of red in it and a little bit of shimmer. Now let's see. This is Poudre, shade 9, and this is Sweet Rebel. Now I'm going to apply the shades 5 Rosso Valentino and 6 Call Me Coral. This is a shade 5 Rosso Valentino, and this is a shade Call Me Coral. This is Rosso Valentino applied, and as you see, it's more of a reddish. It has a slightest bit of pink in it actually, but it's more of a red tone. Do you see how pretty these blushes are? They are so blendable and the finish is so beautiful. Now this is quite pigmented here. I built it up quite a bit so you can see the color, but they are so blendable. They are not patchy at all, and they have the most beautiful finish to them, and they feel creamy in the pan, but they are more powdery on the skin, but a very beautiful soft powder. And this is the shade Call Me Coral. This one is less reddish and more coral. Now this is a shade Rosso Valentino, and this is a shade Call Me Coral. The shade Call Me Coral is much softer in tone. Rosso Valentino is much more reddish and much more bright. I want to show you how beautifully you can blend them. If you use a big brush and you go over them a couple of times, then the color just blends into the skin more and more. So even if you are using too much, you can reduce the amount of pigmentation quite well. This is how it looks. The last shades I'm going to apply are 7 Orange Delight and 2 Very Rose. Now these are different, but these are the last 2 I have, so I'm going to apply them together. So this is Very Rose, and this is how Very Rose looks on the cheeks. It's a neutral rose tone. Now I do apply the color very strongly so you can see how they look. This is a Very Rose, and this is Orange Delight. I love this shade for summer. This is Very Rose, and this is Orange Delight. Let's get into the comparisons. At the moment I have the shade Call Me Coral on my cheeks. I'm going to start with the Chanel Le Beige blushes from the winter collection, and I'm going to start with the coral shade. Now this is the Chanel blush in the coral shade, and this one looks quite similar to Orange Delight actually. They're quite similar, but the Chanel blush has a little bit of shimmer and the Valentino blush is without any shimmer. It's more of a natural glow. I prefer the Valentino blush. Now the rose shade from the Chanel blushes. This is a rose shade and this one doesn't look similar to any of the Valentino blushes. Now I'm going to compare the summer blushes from Chanel with the Valentino blushes. I'm going to start with the Gold and Peach palette. This is the Chanel blush in the coral shade and this one is the Valentino blush in Orange Delight, and they are very similar. They're almost identical actually. So if you have the Chanel blush from the summer collection, you don't need the Valentino blush in Orange Delight, because they are almost identical. Now I'm going to compare the berry shade. Now this is a Chanel blush in berry and this is the Valentino blush in very rose, and they are quite similar. The Chanel blush is a hint more berry and the Chanel blush is more matte. The Valentino blush has a natural radiance in it and it's such a beautiful finish the Valentino blush has. So I really enjoy and like the Chanel blush. Is one of my favorites from this year, but I prefer the Valentino blush. I like the finish much more. Now I'm going to compare the Cream to Powder blush from Chanel in Beige Eclatant to the Valentino blush in Poudre. This is a blush from Chanel in beige and this is the Valentino blush in Poudre, and the Valentino blush in Poudre has a little bit more rose in it. The blush from Chanel is much more beige and neutral. This one is even more natural than this one, but both are beautiful. Now I'm going to compare the Chanel Cream to Powder blush in Rose Radiant to the Valentino blushes. And this is a Chanel blush in Rose Radiant, and this one looks similar to the shade Poudre, but this one has a little bit more brown in it. Now I'm going to compare the shade Rose Ardent from the Chanel Cream to Powder blushes to the Valentino blushes. Now this is the Chanel blush in Rose Ardent and this is the shade Very Rose from Valentino. And the Chanel blush is a little bit more neutral of a rose tone, and the Valentino blush has a little bit of a berry undertone in it. The last Cream to Powder blush from Chanel I have is in Rouge France. It's this red one. This is a Chanel blush and this one looks different to all the Valentino blushes. This one is a very vibrant reddish orange shade. Now I want to compare the two Gucci blushes I have with the Valentino blushes. Now these are the two Gucci blushes. This is a Rosy Beige. This is bright coral, and Rosy Beige looks different to all the Valentino blushes, and the coral shade looks maybe a little bit similar to Orange Delight, but it has a little bit more of a coral shade, but it's still a little bit more orange than the coral shade from the Valentino blushes, I think. This is the Valentino blush, the coral shade, and this one is the Gucci blush, and this one is more orange. I hope the swatches are helpful. Please tell me in the comments which shade you like the most. If you like the video, then please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, then please consider subscribing, and I hope I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye!